What's up? Welcome back to Cowgirl Up. Today we are going to talk about family. That's a very, very important topic for me. I didn't realize how important my family was to me until I was leaning on them for everything. Until I got sick, I was able to do stuff on my own for myself. I was a very independent little girl. But then when I got sick, after I was paralyzed, I was completely dependent on my family. I mean, they had to do everything for me, help me out of my wheelchair to go to the bathroom. Like, it was a complete night and day change for me. And I think it really, really affected me. I didn't realize how much I took them for granted until they were all I had. Yes, when you're a kid, it's normal, like quote normal, to take people and things for granted because that's what I was born into and that's all I knew. So, plus, it's not human nature to be thankful for everything you have in your life. Being thankful is a learned emotion. If there are any kids watching this, here's some advice. Cherish your family. Never go to bed without saying I love you. Treat every day with them as if it were your last because honestly, you never know when it could be. Family are the ones closest to you, but I feel like family is also the ones that you know, treat the worst and take things out on because of, life frustrations. I used to wonder we do why I did this and, really everyone does this, but it's because we take for granted that family is always going to be there for us. So we just go ahead and unload on them. And that's really unfair. This is definitely not the right way to treat the ones that you love because they're not always guaranteed to be there. Like I mentioned in my first episode, I had an awesome family. Like, for real, I won the family lottery. But a lot of kids aren't so lucky. They may have parents that will hold things against them that they've done in the past. Making mistakes is part of growing up, it's how you learn. And thank God my parents were not ones to hold my mistakes over me because I made a lot of them. My parents probably thought I was going to be like an astrophysicist or something. Okay, so in addition to me over here just like flopping my gums, we are actually going to interview a licensed family therapist just to see if I'm like just way off base with what I'm telling you.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Dan Dean. I'm a marriage and family therapist at St. Petersburg Counseling. I've been in the field since 2010, like in the human services helping field, doing case management, doing behavioral health assessments, which led me to being a counselor in Pennsylvania for 2 years, and recently moved back home where we're from in St. Petersburg. So that's where I've been at St. Petersburg Counseling since August of this year.
Awesome. Well, I'm very, very happy. It must have been so different living up where it's like super cold and snowy.
Yes, yeah, we started our family here in St. Petersburg, Florida. After graduate school at USF in Tampa, we always wanted to move to Pennsylvania, kind of have all four seasons. Found that it's very cold in Pennsylvania, and all our families here. So we moved back to Florida the end of July.
Well, awesome. Glad you're back. More the merrier.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, well, thank you so much for sacrificing your valuable time to talk with me today, but I'm just so curious about the psychology field, and it's just
Mhm.
always really interested me in why we do what we do.
Yes.
Yes, so I just have, a few questions that I really wanted to ask you today, and he graciously agreed, guys. So we are going to, uh, first I want to start with the most the most burning one for me. I think that this is a huge debate among people today. Um, what is your opinion about nature versus nurture?
Yeah, so I feel that we all have it. We all have like a biological makeup, and then we also have we're nurtured by someone growing up. So it's something that we've all experienced growing up, and it definitely influences us on who we are today. Where we're shaped by those who raise us, either our parents or our guardians. It helps like shape our personalities, our values, and morals, and so all of that really makes up, kind of shapes up of who we are today.
Yeah. All right. And at your practice, St. Petersburg Counseling,
Mhm.
do you ever see orphans?
I have not seen orphans at the practice. However, I have worked with foster children through DCF as a case manager in the past, but we haven't seen foster children or orphans at St. Petersburg Counseling.
Yeah. And tell me about your experience working with foster children. I mean, like, is it is it harder to work with a foster child than with um another child?
In my experience, I worked with Lutheran Services Florida as a case manager for 2 years, and really enjoyed working with the kids and with their families or with foster families. The main goal was to reunify the child back with their parents when the case opens, and found some wonderful experiences like with the foster children, definitely getting attached to like me as a case manager, their foster parents. But I've always was happy with the reward of when the child was able to be reunified back with their parents.
Yeah, that sounds like it would be a really rewarding work.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, Now, I guess maybe because I don't have too much of an idea, but without getting too specific, could you tell me some of the most common things that you treat?
Yeah, so myself and us in St. Petersburg Counseling, we work with individuals, couples, and families with all sorts of different concerns or complications. We worked with those that struggling with depression, anxiety, mood disorders, trauma. For the couples and the family work, we really try to focus on the relationship, the attachments that those have, like within those relationships, and the focus in treatment is to strengthen the bond within the partners or the family members.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
That's that wow. That's
It's really
some
rewarding
deep
work.
work. Yeah, it sounds
Yes.
like it would be very rewarding.
Yes.
Um, Now, what are the worst effects that you see from a child with a poor home life? I mean, because we hear about, I guess we hear about horrible effects and we assume what they'd look like. So, but what do they actually look like?
As far as the effects from a child from a poor home life,
Yes.
yeah. So from a poor home life, I really see a lot of detachment, like emotional detachment or mental detachment with relationships. Children from a poor home life often have like distant relationships with their parents due to the different stressors and stresses in their lives. Due to those life stressors and kind of struggle for survival, children really feel the stress from their parents, and they often become very emotionally afraid or scared due to their environment.
Wow. That's that is some heavy stuff to deal with
Okay.
every day. Man.
It can be very sad, yes.
Uh, I can't even imagine.
hmm
Like you just telling me right there, I was like, oh wow.
Yeah. And that's why I feel like counseling is so important and so helpful to have that support.
Yeah, exactly. Um, hmm. Now, what do you think is the biggest thing that a child needs from his or her family in order to thrive?
In order to thrive,
Yes.
children they're constantly looking for love and connection that I've seen in my experience. They want that connection with their parent or their guardian. When a child is, say, quote unquote acting out, they're often they're doing so because they're looking for connection.
Mm-hmm.
With many kids that I've met with, I often hear the similar need that I want my mom with me, I want my dad, I want that connection. So I see that as a biggest need to help a child thrive.
Yeah. Is there a certain age group that you notice tends to lean on their family more than the others?
Um, well, as humans, we're always looking for a connection. We want like a physiological connection. It's kind of it's hardwired like in our brains. So we learn to build that bond and trust with our parents from a very early age, like the first months to a year. So when, for example, like when babies cry and their parents respond to them right away, they learn that they can trust their parents and to be there for them when he or she needs their parents. So when that bond is constructed, they're more likely to trust and lean on their family growing up. So I say that those first months to a year is a very vital age group.
Yeah, the babies that the whole bond with their mother thing is like a different takes on a different meaning.
Yes,
Guys, yeah.
absolutely.
Um now is now what are some shared traits among the biggest groups affected?
The biggest groups like affected that come to therapy.
Right, yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of there can be a lot of hurt, like a lot of past hurt that's caused depression, anxiety, anger. In therapy, we really try to dig down to those primary emotions. If there's hurt, kind of a loss of control, if there's a lot of fear going on. So a lot of traits lead to sadness, anxiety, anger, and so those are very common traits to those that come to therapy.
Hmm. Yeah, it sounds like there would be.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, I guess as a former counseling patient myself, I know that counseling really does work. Why do you think that it works better than talking to a friend or family member?
Better than talking to a friend or family member. I mean, that can definitely be therapeutic in and of itself. But in therapy, that really works because you're working with a trained therapist with skills and tools that help you work toward that change that you're looking for. Um, I guess, for example, you could go to your friend and have them crack your back, or you could go to a chiropractor and have them work on your back instead. So you have that skilled clinician working with you. So one doesn't go to counseling or therapy just to vent to the counselor. There are like specific therapeutic goals in mind that the therapist works with you with those specific skills in order to achieve your therapeutic goal.
Hmm. And I guess, out of curiosity's sake, how long, like in your experience, how long would it take one to be able to, I don't know, from when they come to you to all better and out the door, leaving?
Yeah, from start to finish can be very different for each person. It depends on the need, like what the goal is, how ready the person is to make the change, because the therapeutic relationship is two-way between the client and the therapist. So it can take several weeks. It can take several months. Some people are in therapy for far longer than that. It depends on if the client does the work toward the change that they're looking for, or the couple works on their relationship to make the emotional attachment and connection that they're looking for. So it can be short term or it can be pretty long term.
Hmm. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, what would you say to those who doubt the effectiveness of counseling?
Who doubt the effectiveness of counseling. I feel nowadays in this year that we're in, now more than ever, people are seeking out therapy. Mental health concerns are on the rise. Relationship concerns are on the rise, and relationships are hurting that I see. So our mental health and our relationships are just as important just as our physical health is. And I often say that to clients that I feel our physical health is just as important as our mental health. So all these areas help our quality of life. And therapy can help improve your quality of life by addressing the mental health and relationship needs that each of us have.
Yeah, and they both interact with each other, right? They
Mm-hmm.
like they're in codependent, because I hear about um gosh, someone who says they're not, if they're depressed, then that can actually make them physically ill.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So I think it's really, really important to take care of yourself both ways.
Yeah, I agree.
Um, this is one that is very common in the United States, that at least the circles I travel in. What would you say to those who dislike the stigma of counseling?
Yes, there definitely has been a stigma, and I've personally been seeing the stigma of counseling decreasing as more people are taking their mental health and in relationships their needs more seriously. Those areas in people's lives are definitely a priority. I feel counseling is also it's very private, so we take privacy and confidentiality seriously, and that helps our clients to feel like more safe and secure when coming to therapy. So that can help with the stigma of counseling overall.
Right. Okay. Well, um, I think that is all that I have, uh, all the questions that I personally have for you today. Anything else that you can think of that might be useful for viewers to hear?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're a small group private practice, four of us therapists at St. Petersburg Counseling in St. Petersburg, Florida. We're in Southwest St. Petersburg at the crossroads of Tyrone Boulevard and Park Street. So we're very happy to help your viewers and
Mm.
meet with them and help their mental health and counseling needs.
Well, wonderful, Dan. Thank you so much.
Now, in case you're wondering, these are the 7 stages of grief, and different people say that there are different numbers of stages. The first stage is shock. That is your initial paralysis at hearing the bad news. Then you have denial, trying to avoid the inevitable. Then you have anger. It's a frustrated outpouring of negative emotion. You go through bargaining, uh, seeking in vain for a way out. Then you have depression, and this occurs when you finally realize the inevitable situation at hand. Then you move to testing, which is you're just trying to seek out realistic solutions. Final stage is acceptance, when you're just finally finding the way to move forward. I've had experience with all of them. So much so that you could say I used to know them like the back of my hand. Now, different parents. I I think every kid goes through this phase where they wonder what it's like to have different parents. I know I did. I used to dream about what it would be like to have royalty for parents. I felt so guilty for even thinking that. But I think that every kid goes through that phase where they hate their parents for no apparent reason other than, they just tell you what to do. This is called grass is always greener syndrome. And my mom is actually the one who taught me that. I don't even know if that's an actual, like, psychology term, but yeah, she taught me that this is the grass is always greener syndrome. I did stop thinking that later in life. I think it was somewhere in high school, but I really can't like pinpoint the actual point in my life where I stopped wishing I had royalty for parents. Because I just realized how lucky I was to have them. Like, seriously, who else is gonna put up with me? So, when I realized that, I made it a point to thank them for everything that they had done. I kind of thanked them profusely, so they might have just thought I was a maniac. So every time I thanked them, they just said, "No problem, honey, just doing our job." But in all reality, I mean, I might have died if I didn't have parents like them. So when they said that, I was taken aback, first of all, but then I wondered, okay, well, if that's a parent's job, then why don't all kids with tumors have a story like mine? So I was 7 when I was diagnosed, and I was extremely blessed to have the family that I did. My mom knew that at the time of my diagnosis, I needed a distraction from that and the fact that my parents were getting a divorce. So the horse farm that she bought had a house on it. She quote, killed two birds with one stone. I was looking for anything that would change my circumstances in life. I wanted things back to the way that they were. As a kid, I went through lots of emotions during this time, like lots. Um, I struggled with self esteem, feelings of inadequacy. I blamed myself for the divorce for a long time. Um, and of course, going through the 7 stages of grief for 2 issues at the same time. That's a lot for a little kid to handle. They've updated the stages since I first learned them in high school, the 7 stages of grief. And yes, I am well aware that I just aged myself. Either that or I just wasn't paying attention, but let's be real here, it could have been either. I was trying anything to change my life circumstances, and I do mean anything. I was very young when everything in my life started crashing down around me, so it wasn't drugs or alcohol that I succumbed to, it was horses. Arguably, this was just as dangerous as those, and I did this for 20 years because there aren't any interventions for those. So they say that you're not a good rider until you fall off 100 times. At least that's what my trainers used to tell me when a horse would refuse a jump and I would go right off the side of them. And well, let's just say I became a great rider. Well, I did not have a lot of formal training at 8 or 9 years old, or 7 or 8 years old, but my mom bought me a horse at auction for $750, and I felt like I was on top of the world. I thought that if I got really good at riding, then I could travel to shows on the show circuit like all the girls at my barn did. So I was riding Ginger at this time, and Ginger was an incredibly awesome trained horse. She was so well behaved for a thoroughbred. It was awesome, and I was so in love with her. She was my mom's best friend's horse. Because I didn't she wasn't mine or anything, but we were just she was just, I don't know, staying at our barn, and I was riding her because her friend got pregnant, so she obviously couldn't ride while she was pregnant. So she let us hold on to her and take her for lessons. But Ginger was amazing. I did very well on her, and my trainer told my mom and I so, and she actually offered to take me on the show circuit. Now, at 8 years old, when that happens, you just it's incredible. I felt like it was the best feeling in the world. Now, my mom was still on the fence about it because she didn't know about, I would miss so much school, and then they were talking about having to have a tutor go with me, and like this was turning into like a whole thing. But then my trainer went crazy because she went to a show with another girl named Danielle from our barn, and um, yeah, I guess she just took all of her stuff and the horse trailer while this girl was in the ring, in like the show ring. So yeah, she got out and couldn't find anything. So yeah, that was pretty much that. I'm really glad that I took my mom's advice and never went to bed without telling my family that I love them, because my mom is no longer with us. She had a degenerative brain condition where her midbrain was actually shrinking. Doctors didn't really have a formal name for it. She didn't pass away in her sleep, but she did slip into a coma at 7 a.m. that morning and never woke up. Point is, I wasn't able to tell her that I loved her because I didn't live with my parents at the time that she fell into the coma. I had actually just moved a few months prior. So if I hadn't made absolutely sure that she knew it every single day, I would have felt absolutely horrible. Well, I'm out of time today, but please tune in next week for more Cowgirl Up, only on Visual Dramatics Network. Remember, life is not about waiting for the storm to pass, it's about learning to dance in the rain. So remember that if you're dealing with something and you're not quite sure how to handle it, you can definitely hit me up and I'll answer you on my next show. This is Carly Bailey signing off. Catch you later, guys.